Welcome to another podcast at Weller Truck here today in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I'm here with Nate Cranston. I'm Scott Menifee. I've been with Weller Truck for about 20 years, a ton of experience on the Allison transmission, legacy product, old school stuff, the 5, 6, 700 Allisons, your 3000, 4000s, and specifically a lot of experience on the 1000, 2000 Allison transmission as well. Over the last 20 years, I worked my way into our quality tech support, doing troubleshooting, helping end users with diagnostics, wiring, all that good stuff. And I worked my way up. Now I'm basically a trainer within our customer company here for Allison transmissions. And I got Nate Cranston here with me. And tell me a little bit about yourself, Nate.
So I started here with Weller in 2004, so I'm 22 years in. Allison, almost my entire career. Currently, I'm working as a road service tech. I've also worked in warranty tech support, and I do a lot with test development on our dyno tests. So dyno valve body machines, things we can test for so that we can make sure that when you get the transmission, it's going to work. That's currently what I'm doing now. We get a lot of calls from customers to come out to their location and fix transmissions. So today I understand we're going to be talking a lot about prognostics. So we'll go through our questions on prognostics and certain things that we have to do to reset all the monitors when a transmission is replaced. So
Absolutely. So that's why we're here today. We want to talk about the required resets after an R&R transmission, specifically on the Allison electronically controlled transmission. So like your 1, 2, 3, 4000 Allisons. So Nate, what is prognostics?
Prognostics monitors oil life remaining, transmission health, and filters. So if your filters are loaded up, in the 3 and 4000 series transmission, there's a valve that strokes and tells you that your filters are loaded up. We often have complaints on new installs that the oil life monitor is telling the driver that the oil needs to be changed. Well, a transmission just got changed, so it's probably not due for an oil change yet. So that's why it's important to reset these monitors.
Yep. So like Nate said, we get a lot of questions, we get a lot of calls, especially at the initial install of that transmission. So these resets are required, or we could have potential issues. So we'll kind of break it down for everybody today. So we've talked about prognostics. What year was it introduced again?
2009.
2009?
Model year transmission. So
okay.
Probably anything vehicle model year like 09.5 and up is all going to have prognostics.
Yeah, so by the time 2010. Now, do they all have prognostics on them?
Yeah, every unit after 2009 has prognostics.
Yep.
So except for a 7-speed off-highway application, that would not have it.
Gotcha. Correct.
So like an off-highway or an industrial style transmission, if it's a 7-speed with a low gear, it would not have that.
Right. So. And also a side note, so that's an added package to the calibrations of prognostics. Now, it's not always in the calibration, correct?
Well, it can be turned off or turned on. So you may have a later model year truck. It has the ability to have prognostics, but it could be turned off in the calibration of the TCM.
So they may not have it. The calibration might not have it in there. It might be disabled, something like that. How do I know if I have prognostics in my truck?
So the easiest way to tell if you have prognostics is if you have a 3 or 4000 series transmission to just push the up and down arrow keys at the same time, and it will say oil monitor or oil life monitor, or it will say OM.
Nope.
If it goes straight, you push the up and down arrow keys and it says OL, that's checking the oil level. That means that either prognostics has been turned off or it doesn't have it.
Yep, cool. So we do have a video on our website that kind of gives you the breakdown on the up and down arrows on the keypads. So some vehicles don't have a push button shift selector for like a 1000, 2000 model. Right. It might just be a shift lever. Those are cable driven by the transmission. So the OE will provide a trans service light on the dash, not necessarily a check trans light, but a trans service light. So there's a big difference between the check trans and the trans service light.
Yeah, usually they have the outline of a gear with a wrench inside of it.
Yep. So another way to tell if I have prognostics on my truck, once I turn the key on, it's going to do an initialization with that check trans light, and you'll see that bulb come on for 2 to 3 seconds. Likewise, with the push button shift selector, there'll be a wrench icon between the two ends, and once you turn that key on, you'll see the wrench icon for 2 to 3 seconds. It's basically doing a bulb check, initialization check, and it'll do the same thing on the OE provided dash lights as well. Some of the newer trucks have a shift stock with the Allisons, 3000, 4000s, so they're not using the push button shift selector, so there'll be a light provided by the OE on the dash.
That'll also be right in the dash in the range indicator area where it tells you what gear you've selected. So
correct. So now if I have it's time for an oil change, a filter change, or something like, how do those lights work? What are they telling me, and how do I determine what's what?
So I got to check my notes on this one. So if it flashes for 2 minutes after drive is selected,
yep,
then that indicates that you need the filters changed.
Filters changed, absolutely. Right. So we're going to be changing filters. So you start it, truck, put it in drive, and that light starts to flash for 1 to 2 minutes. That's saying, hey, change your filters. Time for a filter change. Yep, yeah. Absolutely.
Oil life. What do we got here? Oil life.
Yeah. So on the oil life, if I put it in drive and the light comes on for 1 to 2 minutes, just stays
solid.
On. It's solid. Then it turns off. That indicates change
your oil.
Change your transmission fluid. Yep. That's what's going on. Now, what if that light comes on and stays on and it doesn't go off? What's that telling me?
Well, then that indicates that the trans health or the clutch indicator life is at its max adapt or it's failed. It thinks it has a failed clutch. So
yeah. So we're getting low clutch life, but basically it's a 10%. So once we hit 10% clutch life, that wrench icon or trans service light on the dash, that'll come on and remain lit, and it will not turn off. So that's just telling you, hey, you got a low clutch. Doesn't necessarily mean the transmission's bad, right?
Not necessarily, yeah.
But we're getting down there, right?
We're getting down there. If you leave the wrench icon solid after you've selected drive for too long, indicating it's got low clutch life, it'll eventually throw a P2789, which is clutch adaptive life at limit. And then that's down to like 0% clutch life.
Correct.
It turns it on when it's at 10% clutch life.
Yep.
If it's at 0 or negative clutch life, then it will throw the code for max adapt or adaptive learning at limit.
Yep. So a lot of times use 10%, the light comes on, stays on. Then generally when you get around 6%, then you'll get the check translate, the DTC P2789 clutch life learning adaptive at limit. Transmission still might be working correctly, but now you're going to get a check translate. So a lot of guys will troubleshoot that code while they got the service icon light on. They do all the troubleshooting and they waste a lot of time when really it's just telling you that you have a low clutch in that transmission. Here's a check translate. You might want to consider replacing that unit.
Well, the first thing I would probably do is I wouldn't trust the Prognostics 100%. If it says your clutch life is at limit, there could be other factors that are affecting that. So, you always want to check your oil level and condition of the oil to make sure it's not burnt, it's at the proper level. Is there any other codes active at the time that you have the 2789 and the wrench icon? Sometimes we can just reset the clutch life and it'll put it back, and then it will start learning again, and it won't show that icon again, or it won't throw that code.
So it's not always 100% accurate. It could be off a little bit as far as the TCM calibration.
Yeah, I would not replace the transmission because it told me that the clutch life was bad, unless there were other indicators that the transmission was bad.
Additional DTC set, more codes, something like that, other issues, So if the transmission is working properly and functioning properly as far as drivability goes, maybe we don't have to replace it right yet. So maybe we can clear the code out, we can reset the clutch life, take that clutch back to 100%, and then basically we're kind of waiting for that light to come back on.
We're going to see if that light comes back.
And then how soon it comes back.
And maybe just flag that unit that it's possible that the transmission could fail soon.
Right. So now when it comes to oil life and the filter life indicators, it tells us when to change the fluid in the filters. And there are recommended service interval changes. You can go to Allison's website. They have that. We also have that stuff available too. And these are just warning lights, and that extends it out. So, what if I don't have an indicator light on, it's not telling me to change my fluid yet, but I just check it for whatever reason, and it's kind of funky, kind of dirty. Do I just let it go till the warning light comes on, or what do you recommend?
Well, a lot of people have PM schedule, so if you're changing the oil before the keypad tells you to, it's still important to reset the monitor every time you change the oil. So, you want to change the oil because it looks a little dark in color, or it's gone through a more severe duty cycle than normal. When you change the oil, you want to reset the monitor. You change the filters, you reset the monitor.
Absolutely.
Every time. Yeah.
Every time you change the fluid or filters, reset it. You can reset it through the keypad. There's a couple different variations. You can check us out online on our website. We have that information available. Shift lever, or if you have the OE software, you can reset it as well. Now, a 1000, 2000, I can use the shift lever or the software on the oil and the filters. What about the filters on a 3000, 4000? Do I have to use the keypad to reset that?
You can use the keypad to reset it, but in the 3 and 4000 series, it has a physical valve and valve body inside of the control module of the transmission in the valve body section, that when it detects this filter is loaded, it'll stroke a valve and it'll activate a switch that turns the wrench icon on.
Okay, so there's like a pressure differential switch in the transmission. So when they start to get restricted or plugged, that valve will stroke, activates the switch, and then the light begins to flash for 1 to 2 minutes after the drive initiation. Okay.
And they've gone through, there's been 3 variations of the spring tension on that valve. So if you have an older transmission, like 2010, it may be detecting less of a pressure differential than a 2020.
So they stiffened up the spring, made it a little bit higher pressure over the years,
I think it's 28 to 32 psi difference between unfiltered oil at the main pressure filter and filtered oil at the lockup. So it's measuring the differential between main and lockup pressure.
Absolutely. So when that lockup clutch is coming on, so the TCM is doing all the work inside of it, and it figures that out, and then through the pressure and the pluggage to the filter.
And then, like I said earlier, you could get false filter life codes if you have low lockup pressure.
True.
So there could be something different if you continuously get filter life codes.
Right.
It could be due to something more severe.
Right. So we have to go a little bit deeper with our diagnostics, troubleshooting. We have to get a pressure gauge out. Definitely going to need the OE software, but we can work with that through you as well. What about? So I've got some filters here, and these are the OE filters. What about aftermarket filters? Would that cause any issues?
Yeah, the aftermarket filters filter better.
Correct.
Than these.
Yep.
So the micron count, I don't know exactly what the micron count is, but I know that these have a higher micron count. So it's going to let more debris through than an aftermarket filter would. And aftermarket filters tend to load up quicker than the OE filters.
Yeah, so they restrict quicker. So if you're changing your filters and whatever your PMs are and lights are, and these things start to collapse and they're getting plugged up and you're using aftermarkets, should I, change them a little bit sooner?
Well, I mean, I think it would be a good idea to switch to the high-capacity Allison filter. That's the one we've had the best luck with, and we've tried different filters just as experiments to see what was happening. Yeah,
we've done some R&D, and we found that the OE filter is the best filter to use, honestly. And then when we talk about the filters, we also got to have the fluid, the transmission oil. What about transmission fluid? What do you think on that?
We sell the Transcend. It's TES 668. So TES 668 is the spec number of the oil. You can find all the approved TES 668 oils on AllisonTransmission.com. You go right to the OE website to see which ones you can use. There's Mobil, there's Shell, there's all kinds of different vendors that sell TES 668. And you can get that list on the website.
And the 668, that's the latest and greatest synthetic. It used to be the 295. I think the 295 is about 20-year-old technology. So this is just newer fluid technology, right? And then the conventional is what, the 389? So that's the non-synthetic.
TES 389 is the conventional, the non-synthetic. And there are also approved non-synthetic oils that you can run.
Now, can I mix non-conventional with the synthetic?
You can mix them. But you want to go with your oil change interval for the non-synthetic for 2 cycles, I think that they call for 2 oil changes. You want to go with the change interval for non-synthetic oil.
Correct. And so most calibrations that I see, and hopefully maybe you too, they're calling for in the calibration to use the 668. If you have the OE software, it still says 295, but 295 is 668. Very rarely do I see the 389 in there for conventional on your prognostic settings.
Yeah, so there is when you get the computer calibrated, it's going to ask you what type of oil are you using non-synthetic or synthetic, and you have to put that in there. So
Yep, absolutely. And again, if you need any help with this, just give us a call, reach out. We're more than happy to help you. So when it comes to clutch life, it monitors C1 through C5 or C6 on a 7-speed, but does it monitor the torque converter clutch?
does not monitor the lockup clutch in the torque converter, the TCC. The way it monitors it is a lot. We have notes here, so it's going to measure the clearance of the clutch. So how far does the piston have to travel to apply the clutch? And it uses the adaptive figures, just the way that it adapts your shifts while you drive. So as you drive the truck, it changes the way that it duty cycles solenoids to achieve a smoother shift. It uses some of that same information here to determine our clutch life. So if it sees that piston has to travel from the time it turns the solenoid on till the time it confirms that the clutch has grabbed, if that time gets too long, then they lower and lower the percentage of clutch life remaining. So
So as that clutch wears, it takes longer for the piston to travel to apply the clutch.
The clutches get thinner. The piston has to travel farther. It takes more time to make the piston travel to grab the clutch. So
and we call it a complex algorithm or just a mathematical equation in the transmission. So the transmission TCM computer is just looking at data and doing it the best it can with the data that it has. Okay, that's why, like we said earlier, it might not be 100% accurate, but it's usually pretty close as far as clutch life.
Well, these can only do math, right?
Yeah, they can only do math. So
they're doing math. That's your clutch life is a math problem.
Absolutely, for sure. So if we how do we reset the oil filter trans health? I think we kind of covered that with the keypad, OE
with
software.
the keypad, if you just push the up down arrow keys until it says OM and hold the mode button down for 10 to 12 seconds, it should put that oil life remaining back to 99%. Same with filter and trans health. So,
but can I reset trans health on the keypad?
You have to use the software to do trans health.
So the trans health with the clutch life, that is software only.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Oil monitor and filter life monitor can be reset with keypad. On 1 and 2000 series with the lever or you have a lever on the console. There's a way that you can do it by just moving the shift lever back and forth, and that you have a video on that on how to do it on our YouTube channel.
Some OEs use a shift stock, so there's a little button on the dash. You'll cycle through oil life, filter life, trans health monitors. You just hold that button down on the dash to reset that. There's a procedure for that. Just depends on what the OE is. There is one other. So if I have a 1000, 2000 series Allison transmission, and I get in my truck and I have a keypad, is that an Allison keypad?
You have a push button selector in a 1 and 2000. That's an Aaron's.
And that's not.
So that's not a Allison shift selector. So if you look in the cal for those, it'll say a non-Allison electronic shift control. And that cannot reset any monitors. It won't give you any information as far as oil life, filter life. So that's something to watch out for. Those commonly come on Peterbilt, Kenworth, Packard brands, right?
Absolutely. So watch out for that. You might get tricked on that one. So the OE push button shift selectors will have the OE logo stamped on it, so you'll be able to see that. The non-OEs, the Aaron's, do not have the OE name on there. So I think that kind of covers it for prognostics, right? So we got to reset that. We got a video at the end here in a few minutes. We'll show you kind of using the software how to navigate through that to do those resets. But let's talk about shift adaptive resets and what's that all about, Nate? What are the adaptives?
So if you're replacing a transmission or you've done a major repair like a valve body or replaced solenoids or something like that, it's recommended that we reset the adaptive shift parameters. So the only way that you can do that is with a scan tool. So we either have to use Allison Dock, the OE software, or a lot of the Snap-ons or Matco scan tools, they'll have the option to reset adaptive shifts. So what that does is it just takes all of the shift memory. Some people call them TAPs, right? Transmission adaptive parameters. Those should be reset anytime major repair or a replacement or overhaul is done. So it takes all of the adaptive memory, all of its adaptive learning that it had with the old transmission, puts everything back to a factory preset, and puts everything into a fast adapt mode. So instead of making small adjustments at a time, it makes big leaps, big adjustments, until you've gone through about 5 up and down shifts at varying throttles too, because the
Yep.
throttle matters. So each one of the adaptives has a a field that it will do. So depending on what throttle percentage you're at, it's going to adapt the shifts to that throttle percentage. So it is a big giant math problem.
It is, it is. So we're looking for 5 up shifts, 5 down shifts, a low, medium, full throttle. We do also have on our website, in our owner's manual, a drive-in procedure as well that'll help you get there a little bit quicker. So that doesn't necessarily mean if I do 5 up shifts, 5 down shifts, and a low, medium, full throttle, that's going to learn. It may take longer, correct?
Yeah, but we're getting it close. So we're kind of giving it, we're sending it through kindergarten.
Yeah, but there you go. Basically getting it kindergarten and on up from there, right?
And it'll graduate high school with the driver.
Right, absolutely, yeah. And so a lot of times you install the transmission, you reset the adaptives, you go for a short test drive, it bangs a little bit, it smooths out, okay, I think I'm good, you bring it back in, you button it up, all right, I send it out, get to the end user. And when the end user, the driver gets in that truck, what are they typically doing with that throttle pedal?
Mashing it right to the floor.
Oh, so on-off switch, wide open throttle. So if you give it to the driver and we didn't reset these adapters, give as many up and down shifts as possible, it may only learn full throttle up shifts. And if it's shifting fine, that's okay. But if we have shift complaints, there's other things on our website, or give us a call, we can help you work to that too. But that's basically what we got to do to reset those adaptives.
Yep. And that's very important because you will have shift complaints from customers if you don't reset the adaptives. It happens. We get calls all the time. We just put this transmission in, and now it's shifting really hard between, third and fourth gear. And I've even driven to customers' locations that have shift complaints of harsh shifts. I get in there, I reset the adaptives, I reset all the monitors, go take it for a drive. Sometimes I got to drive it for 2 miles, and sometimes I got to drive it for 10 miles.
Right, right. See?
But eventually that shift smooths out.
It smooths out.
Unless there's something wrong. But,
correct.
90% of the time you go out there and reset shifts on a harsh shift complaint, and it smooths it right out.
So sometimes you just got to drive it a little bit and keep driving it, repeat that shift if you're having an issue with it, and get the up or down shift in that specific range, if it's 3-4, 2-3, whatever it may be, and let that computer learn, all right? And we get a lot of calls like that, and you do road calls, and you see that all the time,
And it's important to make sure, as you're driving it, you have somebody to look at the scan tool, or you see the scan tool that the throttle is operating how it's supposed to. Is the TCM getting the throttle message from the engine? If it's not, then it will never learn.
That's a big one, the TPS, accelerator position. So if it's not seeing it, if it's inaccurate, or if you're in a truck where it's just bouncing all over the place all the time and that throttle pedal is bouncing, the TCM is going to have a hard time learning those shifts. So some vocations have a hard time, and it's hard to get around that. Or if you have a different driver in that same truck every day, it's going to have a hard time learning the adaptive shifts.
Yeah, because it'll pay attention to the deceleration rate as well. So if you have one driver that comes to a really fast stop, and you have one driver that comes to a slow stop, he kind of feathers the brake and comes down to a stop nice and slow like grandma. It's gonna act differently than you got a guy that's coming to an abrupt stop. So that's another thing that's in the test drive procedure, is to use a varying level of brakes and a varying level of throttle.
Absolutely, absolutely. Cool. So I think that kind of covers it for adaptive. So the two major resets is reset that clutch health on your initial install, reset the adaptives. You have to have the OE software for the clutch life resets. Some aftermarket software can do the adaptives, but I don't think they can do the clutch life from what I know currently.
I'm not 100% sure because I use the OE software.
Use the OE software. Okay. So we're going to pull up a video for you. We're going to kind of hopefully navigate this through, show you where the resets are as far as the prognostics, the clutch life, and then the adaptive resets. If you're familiar with the software, there's a new software platform that came out in 2025 from the OE. So a little bit different than the Classic. Classic's still available, but that's going to be for your 4th gen and older. So basically 2015 and older, you'll use Classic. And then 2015 and newer is going to be like your 5th and 6th gen controls. So we'll use the new dock software, yes, dock premium, new dock, whatever you want to call it. That'll be for your 5th and 6th, so 2015 and newer. So we'll pull up this video and kind of just give you a breakdown. You'll see on the screen, should have a cursor on it. So, yeah. So this is, I think it's going to be our prognostics. So go into your launch pad. You'll go into your action request, but we can look at prognostics in our tools and see our clutch life percentages. All right, so once this loads up, it takes a minute sometimes, depends on your Wi-Fi signal, all that good stuff. But once it's loaded up, you can see C1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can see when the fluid's been changed, filter's been changed. It's going to tell you what fluid to use. But as we scroll down, you'll see our clutch percentages. I believe they all say 100%. This is a new TCM, obviously. So you can see where those clutch lights are. So if you have a wrench icon that's on, a 2789, you can go into the software and see which clutch is low. But to reset them is simply we'll just go into our action request. Right, we'll open up our action request here. On the screen, we'll find reset prognostics information. You click on run. We'll open that up. And then you have to reset each clutch individually currently. They may do an update where we can do all. But you'll see I'll click on reset trans health monitor 1, 2, and 3. And we'll go ahead and click on one here in just a second. Basically say, yes, I want to reset clutch 1. All right, pretty simple. Click the OK button, and yay, we win. Successful, right? And I'll reset C2, you know. So on the initial install, you got to reset all of them. Okay?
All of them, yep.
If it was repaired, just reset the one clutch that was repaired. If you did a repair, something like that. So pretty simple stuff as far as resetting prognostics, but this has to be done on an initial install, otherwise you're going to get false codes, false lights.
Well, it's just going to remember what the old you've replaced a transmission. Obviously, there was a problem with it.
Yeah.
It's going to remember that if you don't do all the resets.
Correct. So that TCM does not know you put a new transmission in there unless you tell it with the software.
Right.
So I think we're going to go into our adaptives here. So now we went back into our prognostics. Obviously, they were already at 100%, but you can recheck after you reset those clutches that, hey, they did take to the 100%. And so go back into action requests for our adaptives. You can clear all or reset individuals. Either one will let you reset them all. I think we go into reset TCM adaptive parameters.
And we want to reset them all when you're replacing a transmission,
correct,
not just a single shift.
Correct. Yeah, reset them all. So I think we got selected all, and pretty easy, just a couple clicks, and then you're all done. Then you go test drive it and drive the snot out of that thing, all right?
See, you can see here where it says clutch volume. So when that clutch volume gets too high, that's how they identify your percentage of life.
And the not converged means the TCM hasn't learned. Once it goes to converge, then the TCM has learned that shift, all right?
Right.
So, and if it says not converged and it's shifting okay, that's probably okay. The TCM's still learning that shift. But if it says not converged and you have a harsh shift, a lot of times just drive a little bit more.
It's not learning.
It hasn't learned yet.
It hasn't learned. See there, right there, it says converged.
On one of them, yeah.
So our 3 to 4 upshift was converged.
Yeah, and this is common too, you know. But hey, there you have it. I think that covers most of the prognostics, the adaptives, all that. Make sure you're doing the resets. Reach out if you have any questions. Leave below in the comments what you'd like to talk about next on our next podcast. And Nate, thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. Yeah. All right. Bye, everybody.